Well, we've got some stock up players after Western Kentucky. Let's hope there's still a bye after South Florida.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson with the AHSA Radio Network. That's me. Jimmy Stein with Bama Online. That's him. A little podcasting pro tip. Don't ever put a lifesaver in right before you're about to start talking a lot.
Wasn't a lifesaver at all.
I'm telling you,
life disruptor.
It is a life disruptor, podcast disruptor. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Thank you, FanDuel, for being a great sponsor. Thank you, everydayers, and thank you, newbies. We appreciate you all. Jimmy, you had a great article on Bama Online about some players that had stock up. You also had some stock down, but we're not even going to talk about it. We're not even going to talk about that because
I hate that part. Some commenter even pointed out, like, you really hate doing that. But I'm like, I do hate doing that, and it's also not really true that someone's stock. I just got to pick. If you have a stock up, I suppose you have to have a stock down. I might change it to only stock up, but boy, I don't know.
If everybody's stock is up, nobody's stock is up.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I'm not saying that stock down means this guy stinks, get him out of here. It's more like this guy's got to pick it up. I mean, we'll talk about a couple of guys I bought up just based on snap share. And, hey, sometimes other guys play well. I mean, I bought that up about a couple of defensive linemen. It's not like Tim Smith and Jamarian Latham didn't play well. It's just if I'm Jamarian Latham, I think it's fair to be a little worried about LT Overton taking my snaps. I think that's fair. I mean, stock down doesn't mean Jamarian's doing anything wrong. It just means LT's really good.
So, but let's then concentrate on your stock up guys because you got a bunch of them and they're with good reason.
Yeah. I mean, one that just leaps to mind, Justice Haynes. And, when you say stock up, it's not like his stock wasn't high to begin with. It's not like everybody that listens to the show every day realizes Luke and I didn't just discover Justice Haynes on Saturday. We've been talking him up, and I think everybody now sees why. I think everybody's like, he didn't play much last year. Why is everybody up on this guy? And now you see. I mean, the 85-yard run. I mean, I need to be a better researcher, but I bet that's the longest run from scrimmage for an Alabama back in a long time. I think the longest run from scrimmage last year, Luke, was less than half of what Justice Haynes just did. So that in and of itself is just massive news. Now, he only had about 4 or 5 carries on Saturday. And, I suppose we could have given him the ball more times and he could have rushed for 4 million yards. But what a talented kid. He's also such a good kid. He's great with the media. He's such a superstar. I mean, he carries himself like a star. He is a star. He just needs to improve on the little things that make you a professional back. And by that, it's blitz pickup, catching the ball, running routes from back there, because he can be a real weapon, I think, as a pass receiver. But his stock is up. I mean, an 85-yard touchdown run, that is spectacular for a running back because you have to outrun the whole secondary.
Yeah. And he did get a little gas towards the end. It gave me some Damian Harris vibes. You know how Damian Harris was just awesome. He'd break free. And then the next thing you know, he's caught it like the 2. And I'm like, oh my God, but kudos to him because he had a lot of long runs. Now, a couple of things that somebody pointed out to me. First of all, you and I had said on here, hey, we don't feel like Jam Miller and Justice Haynes are home run hitters. They're more of like, we've said that. And we clearly were wrong. And maybe we clearly were wrong. Maybe that's terrible. But I think we're wronger than we are right. Now, the other thing is, hey, I don't even think we saw a pass to a back. Did we?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, there were 2.
Okay.
Because I'm doing the rewatch and on a play-by-play basis. I know this really well right now, but there were 2. Jam Miller, Jalen threw a ball that wasn't great. I mean, if you want to give a negative mark to Jalen, that's fine. It wasn't great, but maybe Jam should have caught that ball. It was kind of almost hard to tell how catchable it was. I might be being too hard on Jam here, but I think that was somewhat catchable. Later in the game, Ty Simpson threw one that Richard Young certainly should have caught. It also wasn't an ideal throw. Ty doesn't get a 10 out of 10 mark for where he put that ball either. but that ball should have been caught. I mean, that's just a lesson at this level, and that I want to stress to people about catches that are hard. This is high-level football. I mean, it's high-level football. It's not high school football anymore. This is high-level football. Any reasonable athlete, including me and Luke, can catch balls that hit us right in the numbers. Anyone can make that catch. What these dudes need to do routinely are things that normal people can't do. That means the tough catch. And I know every now and then my wife, when I'm watching a game or something, she'll get on me because I'm like, you should have caught that ball. And she's like, but it was over his head and he only got a hand on it. There need to be expectations of making the great catch, because they can all catch it when it hits them between the 8 and the 0.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's okay for fans to be a little tough on, well, they signed you to make that play, even though, yeah, I know it's hard. But if it was easy, I mean, everybody would do it. There'd be 400 people on the roster.
There'd be no reason for stars. So
that's exactly right. So anyway, I'm just saying, Richard Young should have caught that ball. Jam, I'm not sure how catchable that ball was. Neither throw was great. So, bad marks at quarterback there. But those were the only two passes I can remember that were thrown to the backs.
We're going to go to your next stock-up guy in the next segment, but I wanted to bring this up that I just looked up the rushing numbers from last year. Of course, famously, Ty Simpson had the longest run from scrimmage last year at 78 yards, and he also famously dropped the ball before crossing the goal line.
We didn't talk about that enough. We didn't talk about that enough.
Yeah, we should talk about that more. Malcolm Simmons, who's from right here in Alexander City, he now plays for the Auburn Tigers. He had almost the same thing happen, and I can't believe people are still doing that. Malcolm's an incredible athlete. I wish Alabama had signed him. Great player, good kid. But I think that he almost had the same thing happen. It's just funny how it continuously happens. But what I really wanted to point out was, okay, so Ty Simpson, 78 yards. The next longest run from scrimmage, and I'm looking at all of them right here,
was
Jalen Milroe's. Huh?
Oh, I was thinking from the running backs, Roy Dell against South Florida.
Well, yeah, probably it probably is Roy Dell, but I don't remember the exact yardage there. But Jalen Milroe had that 53-yard one against Mississippi State, and then Roy Dell at 48 yards. So the longest run by a running back was 48 yards, and that number's been eviscerated by Justice already, and I assume it'll be eviscerated even more by Justice and Jam and potentially some of these other dudes.
Jam had a 39-yard touchdown run, I believe, just on Saturday night too.
Yeah, Jam had a 45-yarder last year, and Jason McClellan, his longest run from scrimmage last year was 34 yards.
That's so surprising because, as we know, earlier in his career, Jace ran for an 80-yard touchdown against Texas. But Jace played with a lot of injuries at Alabama. I think if Jace ever got completely healthy, he'd be a good NFL back. But he really had his banged up issues at Alabama, and hard for him to get 100% health, particularly last year. But regardless, I don't remember saying that Justice and Jam weren't home run hitters. I know this: they run with good power, so I don't necessarily consider them like Kevin Riley's a home run hitter. Riley, now I know he didn't show it Saturday. Kevin Riley is going to have some long distance home runs by the time his career is over at Alabama, because speed is what he brings to the table. He's a Kenyon Drake, Jahmyr Gibbs type guy. I would say Jam and Justice run with more power than guys like that. But I know this, I might have said he wasn't a homer. I wasn't surprised when Justice ran 85 yards per time. I wasn't like, wow, didn't know he had that in him. I wasn't surprised. It was just fun to see because, man, that's a long run for a back. That's a long pass play to a fast wide receiver. But for a running back, again, running backs aren't typically 4-3 guys, and I don't think Justice runs anything like that. But when you have to outrun the entire the whole secondary will have a shot at you if you're running 85 yards. They had 5 DBs on the field. They all had a shot at him, and somehow he outran them all. Just super impressive play. So stock up for Justice Haynes, no doubt.
All right, I want to tell you about eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, baby, eBay Motors got you covered with over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die. You'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time and your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, you're not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the price you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home the big old win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions, yeah, they apply. And eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. I want to remind everybody to go check out the college football previews. I know that they were pre the first week or first couple of weeks, but it's cool to go back and see what everybody picked and if things have changed since then. So a couple of more of your stock up guys, Jimmy. Go.
Ryan Williams was one, right? I mean, of course, we can't have a show without talking about Ryan. I watched some of Ryan's podcasts, by the way. It was actually, kind of amusing. Go check it out, Ryan and Jalen Bachway. But yeah, Ryan stock up because how could it not be? Now, we already had valued his stock somewhere north of Berkshire Hathaway, so I'm not really sure how much more up his stock can go. But as much as we talked about him all summer, and frankly, we've been talking about him here on the show for more than 2 years, Luke, but I don't think we ever envisioned, okay, for his first catch, he's going to have an 84-yard touchdown or whatever it was. And then his second play was even better. It's a shorter play, but it was even better. I think it really showed because the first play, Western Kentucky helped us out a little bit with some pretty poor coverage there. I think the corner ran with him for a little while. And then when Ryan left him, I think that corner thought the safety would be in better position back there to help him out. And he wasn't, because Jalen had done a good job of looking that safety off early in the play. And so Jalen sort of drew that safety to the middle of the field. So did Jeremy on his route. I think it was Jeremy. And that just sort of left Ryan by himself. But that second play, great throw from Jalen. Great throw. Because Ryan wasn't even the first read there. Jalen went to Ryan. And it's hard. I mean, it's NFL Sunday stuff when people want to know what's the difference between college quarterback and NFL quarterback. That play. Because it wasn't his first read. It was like his second or even his third read. But not only that, Milroe put the ball dead on the money. I mean, it's hard enough just to go to another guy, but then to hit one in stride, when it wasn't even your first read, that's Sunday stuff. And then Ryan, of course, did something with it after the catch, which is impressive. He ran through tackles. I remember reading posts this summer about he's 160 pounds. He can't play in the SEC. Well, here he is running through tackles because you know what the kid is? He's a baller. I don't care what he weighs. He's going to make plays. So stock up Ryan Williams. I hope he's in stock up every week, frankly.
You know what that last move reminded me of, and I don't know that I can legally do it or I'd put it up here, is in the Sugar Bowl in 97, Florida against FSU. Ike Hilliard running, catches the ball, stops on a dime, reverses field, two Florida State players sort of run into each other. I mean, just an incredible play. And it looked a lot like that to me, the way his change of direction.
I like that comp too. I hadn't really thought about that before, but there was a lot of Ike Hilliard and Ryan. I mean, that's good.
His change of direction is freaky. And let's give us one more stock up, Jimmy.
Keon Sabb. I mean, there was others that I just grabbed Keon here just because of the two interceptions. But I boldly predicted on BOL last week he would lead the SEC in interceptions. That prediction was looking pretty smart and timely. I didn't see two interceptions in the first quarter come about, but Keon's a ball hawk. It's how he plays the position. I know he's replacing Caleb Downs, but not really. If you think about what really has happened in the secondary in terms of replacing Caleb Downs, replaced Caleb, Malachi Moore. Malachi replaced Caleb because Malachi's doing the Caleb things. He's playing down in the box. He's being physical. He's making tackles. He's the physical presence. Really, Keon Sabb's replacing Jalen Key, who was sort of Alabama's deep safety a year ago, making plays on the far back end for Alabama. And let's be honest, I'm just being honest. I say Keon Sabb's just a much better player than Jalen Key. Frankly, it's not even close. So don't think of Keon replacing Caleb. Malachi's replacing Caleb. Keon's replacing Jalen Key. And I think when you put the two of them together, Malachi and Keon, that's just a great safety duo. Malachi's not quite Caleb, but Malachi's got a lot of experience and veteran savvy, things that Caleb's adding to his game now as a second-year player. But Keon Sabb is just, frankly, a clear upgrade. I mean, Jalen Key was Mr. Relevant, the last pick in the 7th round. It's way too early to talk about where Keon would go in the draft. I'll just tell you right now, he ain't going to go in the 7th round. I mean, he's just a better player, and I hope he sticks around. He's a redshirt sophomore, so he is draft eligible. And I saw Jim Nagy from the Senior Bowl was bragging on him this morning. That's good and bad. That's a double-edged sword.
I want 2 years out of it. We need 2 years out of him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get the Jim Nagy and the Senior Bowl people talking about him too much. I get it. But no, yeah. I think, by the way, Keon would probably be well served coming back because he only had 5 starts coming into this year. The NFL does pay attention to stuff like that. And with NIL and everything else, I mean, more players stay. I'm not going to predict that Keon's headed to the NFL after this year. Now, if he gets 2 picks every single week the rest of the year, and he's got what would be that 24 plus interceptions, I think it'd be hard to keep him out of the pro league then. But no, I think Keon's sticking around.
Well, let's also say that it was just Western Kentucky. I mean, it wasn't like he had 2 picks in the national championship game. So
it wasn't Carson Belk. He didn't have Carson Beck Peltz on the board. I mean, it was TJ Finley.
Yeah, and and as we saw in some quotes on BOL, they had plenty of reason to be a little upset with TJ Finley in terms of some of the things he said. So, Jimmy, we're going to talk about South Florida a little more, and Bama moves up in the AP poll. But right now, I want to talk about FanDuel. Love me some FanDuel. You love you some FanDuel. Everybody loves FanDuel because it's so much fun. It's a FanDuel. I mean, why wouldn't you love it? So you've heard us talk about FanDuel forever, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we have something a little different for you. Right now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket on YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every single regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sports book, which is, of course, FanDuel. I mentioned it right before the break that Bama does move up number 4 in the AP poll, so great. I'm happy. It means nothing right now, but I'm happy to see it. It does make you feel like you're in the cool zone, right? You're not like you're like in the top 4. That's good. But, you can't have 2 SEC teams in the top 4 at the end. But regardless, very happy to see it. I think it's deserved. And I love the way that they're doing the poll this year. They bumped Oregon way back because they stunk. So, I mean, it used to be, it was just like boilerplate. You win, you move up, you lose, you fall down. And now they're putting some actual thought into it, which I truly appreciate. Yeah,
it's funny that, how tough the SEC is. Alabama's 4th in both the AP and the coaches poll, but 3rd in the SEC among the two. Georgia's 1 and Texas is 3. Tough league. But hey, let's not worry about that just yet. I mean, it's fun. We got SEC games coming up this weekend. The SEC playing, and I think the 2 highest profile games of the week. Texas on the road at Michigan, Tennessee on the road at ranked NC State. I think those are the 2 marquee games of the weekend. But I like the SEC to pick up 2 big wins. And hey, I know it's not fun for a lot of you guys to root for other SEC teams, but it does help the league profile. I mean, think about this. You may look, Alabama's the number 3 SEC team in terms of the rankings and 4th overall. It may come down, Luke, at the end to, is the SEC deserving of 4 or 5 teams in, and Alabama's that 4th or 5th team? If that's the case, then you hope that the league, is worthy of all those picks. So I'm just saying, it's probably helpful or possibly helpful to Alabama for the league to have a lot of good non-conference wins, like what would happen if Texas beat Michigan on the road and Tennessee beats what may be the best ACC team. It's kind of hard to tell over there in that league right now. Maybe Miami is, but I don't know. I'd hesitate to say Clemson or Florida State is the best team in the ACC.
Yeah, I'm pro SEC typically. I kind of was cheering for USC the other night. I probably shouldn't have been, but I just kind of was.
It's a fun game to watch. Man, that game was a good watch because I felt like, I think I said to you and some others, I felt like I was watching an NFL game because it's pretty rare that you watch a football game played at a high level where you're like, man, you know who's great? Both of these quarterbacks. But you know what else? Both these teams are playing some defense too. I mean, you're kind of impressed by it all on Sunday night. And normally that's the feeling you get when you watch an NFL game. Like, there's just good players making good plays all over the place here. And that's what I felt I was watching with LSU and USC, right? I mean, I thought they both looked like playoff teams the other night. Now, it's a long season.
Yeah, okay. So a little more on South Florida. They beat up on Bethune-Cookman this last week. It looked like, just according to the box score, that they pretty much were in control, but they didn't really didn't seem they had a ton of explosive plays. The drives usually ended like 4-yard touchdown, 5-yard touchdown, something like that. But another thing that I noticed about them is that they play Miami of Florida week 4. So that's going to be interesting because they're going to get talked about like, okay, well, who's better, Alabama or Miami? That's going to happen a lot. I just found that a little bit interesting. But what else about South Florida intrigues you, Jimmy? Is there anything that you
the coach, for those that have forgotten or don't remember, I mean, that coach, he had a lot of success against Alabama last year. As everybody knows, it was 17-3, kind of a low point of the season for Alabama. Alabama didn't play well. What did that coach do the year before? Oh, the year before that, he was the OC at Tennessee and hung 50 on Alabama. So this guy sort of, it's going too far to say he's got our number, but this guy clearly is not intimidated by coaching against Alabama. That's 2 years in a row. He's had some level of success against the Tide. So, it's going to be a little bit of a challenge. They're better than people think. I think they're better than Western Kentucky, a better team. The quarterback is a more dynamic. He's a dual threat guy. He rushed for 92 yards against Alabama last year. So this is a dual threat quarterback. It's a coach that thinks he can have some success here. And again, their defense is pretty good. Now their offense is good too. Alabama fans don't think of them that way because Alabama held them to 3 points and not a lot of yards last year. Well, guess what? Alabama's pretty good on defense. Alabama needs the same level of defensive success in this game that they had a year ago to give themselves a chance. But I like Milroe this weekend, Luke, to have a big game. I think Milroe wants to remind everyone that he should not have been benched a year ago. This is the game to make his final statement about, hey, benching me was probably not the brightest thing y'all could have done. Look at what I did against the South Florida defense that the other guys couldn't do a year ago. So I think Milroe has a pretty spectacular game. Muted. Man. I know, you'd done well recently. You'd been on a little bit of a roll. And
so stupid. It's just so stupid.
It's like Georgia's 29-game win streak coming to an end.
I really hope he has a good game, too. I got a college fantasy thing I'm doing with some folks, and I got Jalen Milroe, and I got Justice Haynes. So,
oh, really?
Yeah. And I got that Concepcion guy from North Carolina State who had 3 touchdowns the other night. So I'm doing pretty well.
I was guessing you were in a league with a bunch of Auburn fans if you loaded up with Bammers.
Well, I did draft Cam Coleman. I also drafted Jeremiah Smith. I just couldn't get my hands on Ryan Williams, which almost made me want to quit the whole thing. But regardless, all right, that's going to do it for today's podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with more. Until then, roll tide, everybody.
Roll tide.